Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating concept called the rebrand, the Trojan horse of marketing. Have you ever wondered how we can actually teach high-level cognitive skills, like, navigating deep uncertainty and resisting our own mental biases without just handing someone a super dry psychology textbook? Well, today we're looking at a literal masterclass in educational design that tackles this exact challenge. We are going to explore a simulated, high-stakes business scenario that is completely redesigning how students learn to think under pressure. So think about this for a second. How do you teach teenagers to navigate uncertainty? The source material we're looking at today outlines a truly remarkable answer. On the surface, the Rebrand is a 10-day high school marketing simulation, but as you'll soon see, it actually functions as a stealthy Trojan horse. By tossing students right into the driver's seat of a major corporate crisis, it completely sneaks in rigorous lessons about cognitive psychology and ethical reasoning. It forces them to make incredibly tough decisions with incomplete information, entirely shifting how they process data. Section 1. The Atlas Outdoor Crisis. Let's set the scene with the surface-level marketing scenario these students are hired to solve. They essentially become the marketing team for Atlas Outdoor, which is this heritage brand from the Pacific Northwest that is slowly but surely aging out of relevance. Right out of the gate, there is some intense financial tension. The students look at the data and quickly realize they absolutely cannot just abandon their older, aging demographic to go chase a younger crowd. Why? Because a massive 64% of their gross margin relies entirely on their loyal 45 to 60-year-old cohort. I mean, this is the financial engine that's literally keeping the lights on. But wait, it gets worse. Here is the other side of the crisis. Through a brilliantly designed simulation experiment, the students discover a 47-point label gap. What does that actually mean? It means that when you slap the Atlas brand name on a jacket, it actively degrades the product's perception among their target 18 to 20-year-old buyers by 47 points compared to a jacket with absolutely no label at all. The brand name is practically toxic to the exact youth market they desperately need for the future. Section 2. Navigating the strategy windows. So they have an aging cash cow demographic and a brand name that younger buyers genuinely hate. How do you even begin to fix a mess like that? Across the simulation, students have to navigate 144 possible unique paths, which lead to vastly different outcomes for the company. And these students are moving incredibly fast. They follow a daily 50-minute rhythm known as the DIE structure: diagnosis, intervention, implementation, and evaluation. This rhythm forces the teams to rapidly jump from reading complex data to taking binding action before the class period even ends. There's just no time for endless deliberation. They have to commit. Behind the scenes, their choices are being relentlessly scored by an automated engine called the Brand Health Index. The crucial thing to understand here is how this index is actually weighted. Durable, long-term metrics like loyalist retention and stakeholder trust heavily outweigh the loud, flashy metrics like new customer acquisition. This immediately teaches students a hard lesson. You cannot win a rebrand by chasing shiny new growth if it destroys the trust of the people who already keep you in business. And that leads us to the first hidden rule of the simulation, known in the design notes as BCW, or Boring Choice Wins. On 2 of the major decision days, the methodological, conservative, heavily evidence-aligned path is mathematically calibrated to be the ultimate winner. The game rewards discipline over drama. It teaches students that sometimes the best strategy isn't the radical, exciting one, it's the one strictly supported by the boring, everyday data. Section 3. The Calculated Risk Architecture. Here is where the simulation pulls a brilliant twist. On days 6 and 9 of the simulation, playing it safe and boring is no longer the only way to succeed. These are the inflection days. There's a 3-tier scoring system at play here. On these inflection days, a non-methodical, bold path can actually achieve the highest exceptional score. But, and this is a massive but, it only works if the students demonstrate incredibly rigorous reasoning. If they just take a wild guess, they fall into the reckless tier and straight up fail. To get that calculated risk reward, they have to prove exactly why they're making the leap. It's literally the scientific method in action. To earn that top tier, students can't just point to a single isolated piece of data. They must precisely name a multi-day data signal, and they have to write down a falsification condition. Basically, they have to explicitly state right then and there exactly what evidence would prove their own theory wrong. If they can't define how they might be wrong, they simply aren't allowed to take the risk. The simulation actively punishes what it calls reckless behaviors. For example, on day 5, the data throws a massive curveball, an 18% defection in test markets. It's loud, it's scary, and it's incredibly vivid. If a team goes into panic mode, abandons their loyalist base, and bases their entire strategy on that one recent event, they fail the window. The game teaches them that reacting to fear, relying on gut intuition, or failing to provide that falsification condition just leads to total disaster. Section 4. Discovering hidden cognitive biases. Okay, ready for the big twist? Pulling back the curtain, solving the Atlas outdoor marketing crisis isn't actually the main goal of the simulation at all. The marketing data is merely a vehicle. Its true purpose is to intentionally trigger 12 distinct cognitive biases, forcing the students to encounter their own flawed thinking in real time. The whole thing runs on a strict discovery-first protocol. The teachers possess a hidden ledger of these cognitive biases, but they are absolutely forbidden from sharing the actual psychological terms with the students. Instead, the students fall into a cognitive trap, realize the data tricked them, and then they have to identify and name the flawed reasoning in their own words right in their daily journals. It plays out in some truly fascinating ways. Students might notice they're clinging to the company's 28-year history, and they'll name it something like the first number poll, which psychologists actually call the anchoring bias. Or they might try to justify a brand new $2.4 million ad spend simply because $1.8 million was already wasted on it. The students might call this the past spend poll, which is beautifully defining the sunk cost fallacy entirely on their own. Or they might catch themselves mindlessly copying rival brands, essentially discovering social proof from scratch. Now imagine you're the teacher. This requires incredible discipline. When a really sharp student figures out the trick early and blurts out, "Wait, isn't this the sunk cost fallacy?" the teacher is instructed to affirm the description, but actively refuse to confirm the textbook name. They just say, "Hold that thought, write it in your journal." They let the evidence do the teaching, preserving the big aha moment for the very end. Section 5. The Day 10 Reveal. We've reached the climax of the simulation. This is the day the true nature of those stressful, fast-paced 50-minute blocks is finally unmasked. Everything the students thought they were doing is completely reframed. The teacher delivers this powerful, specifically scripted line to the class. They say, "For 10 days, you have been describing patterns in your own words. Today, they get their names. You did not need the names to see them." This is the moment the teacher finally connects the quirky names the students invented, like the past spend poll, directly to canonical cognitive psychology. That realization that they've been studying human behavior all along is deeply, deeply impactful. But wait, the simulation has one last incredible trick up its sleeve. Before any of this even began, way back on day 0, students were forced to write down their strategic predictions, seal them in a physical envelope, and sign across the flap. On day 10, they're instructed to break the seal. They pull out those day 0 predictions, and inevitably, what they wrote completely contradicts the nuanced, data-driven strategy they just spent 10 days agonizing over. That sealed envelope serves as a brilliant capstone device to teach the final bias, hindsight bias. You know that feeling when you learn something new and your brain naturally tricks you into thinking you knew it all along? Well, the students can't claim hindsight bias here. The physical piece of paper in their hands, written in their own ink, proves definitively that they absolutely did not know it all along. The data changed their minds. It is such an incredible way to build real intellectual humility. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. The rebrand shows us just how easily smart people can be manipulated by loud data, sunk costs, and social pressure. If bright high school students can be tricked by these hidden biases, what assumptions are you making about your own major decisions right now? What evidence would it actually take to prove your current strategy wrong? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep questioning your assumptions.